Welcome to those of you who are joining us live and to those of you who are watching the recording later on. I am going to get started. Right now, you're all muted upon entry, but please feel free to use the chat feature for any questions and comments. And please change your name to include your school or district if you haven't already done that. And then I will go ahead and introduce myself. I am your facilitator for today. I am an instructor with EdTechTeacher, and we are a partner with Digital Promise. And I am so excited to be working with you all to think about how to facilitate and design opportunities for student collaboration. Before I was an instructor with EdTechTeacher, I worked in K-12 private schools, both in the Tampa Bay area and in the Nashville area as well, working with students and teachers to integrate technology into their curriculum, whatever the subject, whatever the project. And I'm also a Google certified innovator and trainer and an ISTE certified educator. So I've got some of that experience working in the classroom, and then also some of that technical expertise, if you will. But I am happy to be joined by Sherry, our moderator for today. Sherry, would you like to say a few words?
Absolutely. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. I'm Sherry Lofton. I'm an instructional technology trainer with the VILS program. And I also come from a background of teaching and project-based learning, coaching, and a little administration. So I'm so happy to be with you and support us through our learning today.
Okay, and with that, we will go on to cover our norms for our session today. So we invite you to do everything you can to engage in the session. Like I said, use the chat to ask questions, to discuss, to participate. We'll be having some opportunities for live discussion and hopefully some breakout and some modeling of collaboration strategies later on. And you know, we wanted to design this session to model some of the collaborative learning experiences that your students would be doing in the classroom. So we ask you to be present, to participate, and to really think about and be mindful of how the opportunity that we the content that we present today and the activities that we engage in today can translate to your classroom and benefit you and your students as well. So just think about those things as we move on through our session. So our session objectives are to think about how to integrate digital tools into a pre-existing lesson plan to offer students meaningful opportunities to connect and learn from each other. And we'll explore using some protocols that promote collaboration and peer feedback, particularly in thinking about technology tools that can facilitate that collaboration process. So I'll come back to our check-in question. On a scale of 1 to 5, rate the current level of student collaboration in your classroom. And then if you're looking to increase student collaboration in your classroom, add a plus sign to that number. So we'll just take a moment for you all to add that into the chat just to see where everybody is today. I'm not surprised that most of you have plus signs. You know, that shows that you're interested in our topic for today. So that's great. I'm seeing a lot of 3s and 4s, some 2s and 5s. So it looks like there's opportunity for some growth and for thinking about collaboration, how to facilitate additional opportunities for collaboration. So I'm glad that you all are eager to learn and eager to help facilitate collaboration with your students, even as you're already doing some of these great things in your classroom. So when we talk about designing for collaboration, we are really thinking about designing classroom experiences that can foster student engagement, that can help promote student achievement, and can facilitate effective communication. So there's a variety of different ways that you can set up collaboration. It could be among small groups or just pairs of peers, or it could be collaboration among your entire class or even beyond the classroom walls as well. And just the basic definition of collaboration would be thinking about contributing to shared creations and documents. So students are learning together, they're working together, they're producing learning artifacts together. Research shows that collaborative learning is really powerful for students because it can facilitate some of that student engagement and improve learning outcomes. And some of the ways to make collaborative learning really powerful is to help establish clear goals for students in their collaboration. So not just saying, okay, you have to work together, but why are you working together? What's the purpose? What's the shared goal? And then also to, at the same time, encourage individual accountability of all team members. I know that's a challenge with some collaborative opportunities, right? Balancing that teamwork versus individual accountability. But that's a really important component of powerful collaborative learning opportunities, making sure that all students are engaged. And explicitly teaching communication and problem solving skills. So students don't naturally know the best ways to work together. And as a teacher, you can help them be more successful by helping model or provide examples of ways that they can communicate with each other, ways that they can manage their workflow, or thinking about problem solving skills when issues arise. And then thinking about how does this collaborative learning experience connect with the broader content or the broader curriculum? So what is the purpose of this experience? And then how does it connect to everything else that students are learning and doing? And again, collaborative learning experiences are really effective, or can be really effective, if you use those powerful strategies in promoting high quality peer-to-peer interaction and that increased student engagement and student achievement. When students are looking at each other as instructional resources, when they're working together to solve a problem and to work on a team, that research has shown that can help increase learning outcomes and increase students' accuracy and responses. And they're deeply engaging with the content with each other and in that shared goal of whatever it is that they're collaborating on. So that helps them engage with the content in new and different and deeper ways. So when we think about collaboration, what does it mean? What does the teacher do during collaborative learning experiences? So the teacher can really gain insight into student learning processes and progress by observing students working together in teams and how they're working together to solve those problems. The teacher, as I mentioned earlier, is establishing proper structure for communication, for collaboration, for planning, whether that's being very explicit in assigning roles for students. Younger learners might need more support in facilitating or in having a successful collaborative experience. So you might be more explicit in assigning roles or establishing expectations. But even with older students, modeling some of those problem solving skills or providing strategies for success can really be valuable. And then the teachers monitoring collaborative workspaces. So if students are planning together in a Google Doc or Microsoft Word file, you're accessing those files, making sure that everybody's contributing, adding comments or feedback as needed. And then if you see students or teams going kind of off the path, you can redirect them back to where they need to be. And then providing that formative feedback when students are submitting that learning artifact or that product as well. If I see a comment in the chat, if you're doing something that's live in an in-person classroom, the teacher really should be active and getting around and walking around and checking in with all of the groups. But if you're online, jumping into breakout rooms or providing that digital feedback, through commenting features. Those are really valuable ways to provide assistance and guidance throughout that collaborative learning process. Because even though the students are the ones collaborating, you're guiding that process and you're helping make sure that you're supporting students in being successful. So what is it that students are doing in collaborating? So they're working together in real time, whether that's live in person or in a digital technology tool like Google Slides or Microsoft PowerPoint. And really, digital tools can be something where students are working together real time remotely or in person too. So even if students are in a classroom together live, they can all be, if they have devices, they can all be working on the same collaborative digital tool. And then students are following expectations, norms, and rules established by the teacher and established by the group. And then students are completing any processes or steps or tasks provided by the teacher ahead of time. So they're coming prepared to work with the group. If there's any individual assignments or tasks that they have to do in between, then students are responsible for completing those individual tasks so that the group can be successful and productive. Students are adding content to collaborative workspaces, and students have different roles in a collaborative project. So all students might be planning together or adding media together, or sometimes students might have specific roles where one student is the scribe, one student is the project leader, or one student is adding media, one student is adding the text, or one student's editing, right? So you can set up collaboration or collaborative experiences in a variety of different sort of either structured roles, or you can allow students to kind of figure that out within the group, depending on your students' developmental and behavioral needs. And then students are providing feedback to their peers within their collaborative workspace. So they're communicating about who is completing what needs to get done, and balancing that individual and group collaboration as well. So the technology, there's a lot of technology tools that can be used to facilitate collaboration. And as Rita mentioned in the chat, we know that there's real world applications for this, right? So as students are preparing for life in a digital world, these collaborative learning experiences can really help them. So technology can be used by the teacher to establish clear expectations. And they can be used for collaborative workspaces, whether that's group communication, either in a message board or in a shared document, individual contribution. So if we're looking at some of the Google tools or Microsoft tools that have version history and kind of show a track record of who's adding what, there's also opportunities for group feedback through commenting and suggested edits, and then that teacher feedback and support as well. So I've mentioned a couple different tools in thinking about the Google Workspace for Education, thinking about Google Sites or Slides or Docs, and then also with Microsoft thinking about Sway or PowerPoint or Word. Those are some opportunities that allow for group planning for projects, and then group collaboration for presentation tools. And then many of those digital tools provide that feedback as well. So I'd love to hear, just take a moment in the chat to share any digital tools that you all use for collaboration and how you found that successful with your students. So I'm seeing a few mentions of Padlet, which is a digital bulletin board kind of tool that can be used for students and teachers. Book Creator and Wakelet. So Book Creator is a digital book creation tool. Wakelet is sort of a visual digital bookmarking tool. Jamboard, that's another Google tool that allows for collaborative live work. I know that I find that popular within professional learning sessions that I've done as well. Some people mentioning Pear Deck and Nearpod, some of those interactive lessons. I see Parlay Ideas. I haven't used Parlay Ideas before.
It's amazing. I was a big proponent of Socratic seminars, and a lot of times we would do the discussion trackers where someone would physically track who's responding to who. But with Parlay Ideas, when they're having a discussion board chat, you get a virtual discussion mapper, so you can see where this discussion is going and make sure that there's equity of voice. It's pretty cool.
That's great. I like that idea. Thinking about equity and participation and making sure all students' voices are heard. I know sometimes that can be a challenge with collaboration and thinking about making sure all students are able to participate. So that brings me, feel free to add some more tools if you also have some additional tools to share. But I'd like to hear from you as well in thinking about what are some of the challenges or areas that you're wondering about or thinking might be difficult in implementing student collaboration. And we'll take a moment to explore what are you finding challenging, puzzling, or difficult to understand. I see a challenge about students' level of understanding of technology use, and that certainly can be a challenge in thinking about, what technology skills are students coming with to your classroom, and that may or may not be standardized within your school or within your district. And so if students aren't familiar with the technology tool, that has to become part of the project or part of the learning experience, right? So what are the norms and expectations or on how to communicate and collaborate within a particular tool? And if you do have a wide variety of skill levels, perhaps that can inform your grouping as far as collaboration. So maybe if there's a few students that are really skilled in a tool, but then there's some others that are not familiar with it at all, or it's brand new to them, you can kind of pair them up and they can work and have different roles within that to facilitate that and ensure that everybody has someone who is familiar with that tool. And then let's see, students have forgotten how to interact with each other.
Yeah. That's very true. That is very true, especially, with the remote learning, students getting used to just having their cameras off and being a little shy, especially if you teach middle school, and them just going through those changes, being shy to turn on their camera and things like that. So just reacquainting them, doing some mini lessons on that is going to be super key as we go back.
Yes. So encouraging students to participate and thinking about what that looks like, and that might look different. I see someone mention that in the chat, different groups might have different levels of expectation or support. I know when I've worked in classrooms, there seems to always be those groups that can just run with it on their own. And then there's those other groups that are constantly, conferencing with the teacher or needing some of that extra guidance and support. And so that can be challenging and I'm seeing some talk in the chat as well about thinking about how to make collaboration and projects accessible for English learners or English language learners, and helping pair students strategically. And that is an opportunity to help students, if there are students that are really strong with a tool or really strong with communication, or thinking about strategic group roles, students can then be empowered to be the expert, or be empowered to be the one that's partnering with their classmates, and that provides some responsibility and some opportunities for student leadership within that classroom or within those groups. Yes, we'll have to do a lot more. I see Sherry's comment too. We'll definitely have to do some more explicit instruction on student engagement, participation, and what that, and model what that looks like. Great point too about not overwhelming students with tools. So that might be strategically choosing a few tools, the minimal amount of tools needed for collaboration, or providing student choice, and allowing them to choose a collaboration tool that they're most comfortable with, or choose, have some student choice and voice in what the product is. And that's where some of that rubric-based learning, which is a topic on one of our later sessions, thinking about rubrics can help to sort of make sure that students are all achieving learning outcomes, even with a variety of different products. So there might be some students that are more comfortable with video tools versus presentation tools, and thinking about how to allow students choice and voice there. Oh, and Carmen also mentioned a challenge on figuring out what is the best tool to use. And I know I'm a big proponent of really thinking about meaningful and purposeful technology integration. We also have another session that's related to evaluating EdTech tools for use. So I'll be sharing the schedule for our upcoming workshops over this summer, if you're interested in learning about some of those other topics, which certainly can help with some of these challenges that you're expressing.
No shame on promoting the future sessions.
Yeah, well, it's just, I mean, they're directly related to some of the challenges and concerns that you're expressing in the chat. So, I want to help everyone out, make those connections.
Especially when you talk about the rubrics. That's so key, especially with the collaboration. I know with some of the rubrics that we've worked on and we've had teachers work on over the past, we literally map it out to what the students do. Like sometimes I have not yet learned to, track the conversation, using that growth mindset, but really mapping it out to what we see those actions being, so that students know exactly what these look-fors are and how to improve on that. The rubrics are going to be key.
Yes. And that's key for thinking about that group participation and that individual accountability, because you can have components of the rubric that relate to each of those areas as well. And then that helps with those universal look-fors. So now that we've had some discussion about what collaboration looks like, some of the components of powerful collaborative learning experiences, discuss some of those challenges, we're going to do some modeling of live collaboration. So we have a couple of different collaborative learning activities designed for you all to participate in, hopefully. I've seen a lot of participation in the chat, so hopefully we've got some participation in our collaborative learning experiences as well. So we're first going to do a whole class collaboration, then a small group collaboration, and then we'll finish by talking about some strategies for designing group roles and embedding some reflection into the collaboration experience. So our first activity is a and let me double check that this is, it looks like it's set to everybody. Yes, anyone with the link can edit. So we will share the link to this whole class collaboration slide deck within the chat. And so anybody with the link should be able to edit. But we've got a Google Slides presentation set up here. And let's see, there's 16. I'm going to go ahead and quickly copy and paste this so we have plenty of slides for everyone. But we have this whole class collaboration demo. It's set up so anybody with the link can edit. If you are doing this with students, you might want to share it through your learning management system or through something like Google Classroom, where only people within your class or within your school can edit, just for security purposes. But here, you know, we've got everybody here. We want to have everybody be able to edit. So I opened it for anyone to be able to edit. The first slide, or the second slide actually, is a demonstration of what I'm asking for you all to do. So I want everybody to pick a slide, type your name in, and then in the first workspace, if you click, you can see it's a text box. Add an example or an idea for collaboration within your classroom. And then in the second box, second workspace, add a question or wondering you have about implementing collaborative student learning experiences within your classroom. Okay, so find the slide, add your name, and then in workspace 1, answer the prompt. In workspace 2, answer the prompt. And then once we do that, we'll have some opportunity to review other slides within those feedback boxes. Are there any questions? I see people that are already working. Lots of anonymous animals. So we'll just take a few minutes, let you answer some of those questions. If you have questions, feel free to add them to the chat, or you can pop on your mic and ask live. I should have had some music queued up. So this is an example of pretty simple collaboration in that, you know, there's not some big project that we're creating, and there's not, you know, extended. We're using Google Slides, and everybody's just adding their own thoughts. So collaboration can be as simple as everybody taking shared notes or everybody having a shared reflection like we're doing here, or it can be more involved in thinking about specific roles and having a rubric and a defined project and outcome. But there's varying degrees of collaboration that can occur within the classroom. Thank you for adding those instructions to the chat. And I'm seeing that some of you are sharing how you use those digital tools for collaboration as well, thinking about using Padlet to facilitate discussions or Flipgrid to facilitate some of that video-based discussion. Flipgrid is an interesting one because you as the teacher can post resources. You can post audio or video clips, or you can post links or PDFs to sort of facilitate and model what you are expecting from students. So when we talked about coming back next year and teachers students are not going to know how to participate or how to engage or talk to each other. Having an opportunity, having a model or an example can really be helpful for students. So I didn't have the examples here, but I had the instructions. But you might consider having an exemplar. Though sometimes you have to balance providing examples with not directing their creativity. I know that was an issue with thinking about younger middle school, like 5th, 6th grade. If you provided an example, they all wanted to do the example, right? They didn't want to then, they weren't sparked to be creative. They just kind of followed what you shared. So we had to be vague enough when I worked with 6th graders in particular, being vague enough with the examples or providing an example that's helpful in informing their work, but not forcing them into a box. That's one of those challenges of collaboration or project-based learning. Let's see. Padlet. And feel free, once you've added your content, to provide feedback as well in the feedback boxes. So for example, I'll come in here and mention that gamification. Let's see. Oh, and see, Pam's got an idea to use Book Creator. So it's both a collaborative project in that students are working in teams, but then also it's a whole class collaborative project in that they're covering all the state symbols. So there's different levels of collaboration going on within that same project. I like the idea of using different fonts or colors to make individual participation clear. I know I've done that sometimes when I'm working in a collaborative Google Doc. I'll add my comments in a certain color and then my teammates will add theirs in a certain color. And so we know it's very easy to see and scan, what I need to review or what somebody else contributed as well. Let's see what else we have. Canva. Student conferences. Certainly, you can also think about peer feedback as particularly as an intermediary step. Typically teachers have to give a final grade, but peer feedback can be a review to make sure that students are understanding what it is that they need to be submitting and understanding the content and thinking about that as well. And yes, I love the idea too of having them design something creative and fun together to familiarize themselves with the technology tool before you maybe go into some more content related or deeper or longer term or more involved projects. So yes, the idea of learning about a technology tool itself can really be valuable. Socratic seminar, yes. Jamboard's a great one for reflection, for collaboration, idea generating. What else do we have? Google Spreadsheets for collaborative experiments. I like that idea. And that's a great real world connection too, right? If you're thinking about research teams, so often that's a collaborative experience instead of something that is done in isolation. So having that opportunity to analyze data together and to have a collective data set is really valuable. Oh, that's also a great thing to add too, is if you wanted to add your subject area or your role, that would be helpful. Collaborative labs. There you go. Oh, we could talk about digital portfolios, but that might be a topic for another day. But metacognitive reflection is one of this upcoming session topics. Oh, I see. I added maybe way too many. I don't see anyone on these, so I'll delete the extras. Maybe a couple more minutes to share and respond to each other. I want to highlight that question about how to facilitate participation with introverted students, because I think a lot of times we think of collaboration and we think, well, everybody has to have their cameras on, everybody has to participate by speaking, or everybody has to collaborate in a certain way, but that doesn't honor the preferences or the modalities of interaction among individual students. So collaboration, it makes it more challenging for the teacher, right, to evaluate participation, but collaboration can look different for different learners. And I think that's really important to consider, that not everybody wants to have their camera on.
Especially at certain times during the morning.
Yeah, right. Right. Let's see. Okay, I think I've seen, it looks like many of you have added your workspace responses for the example and for the questions, and I'm seeing lots of feedback to each other. So thank you for participating in that, and feel free to continue adding to this presentation. Feel free also to copy this template and use it with your students if you'd like. I mean, this is a pretty simple template. You can also build something like this in slides or in PowerPoint, or, a lot of you mentioned a lot of different collaboration tools you use, like Flipgrid and Padlet or Jamboard, to facilitate some of those class discussions or those collaboration opportunities. But what we're going to do now, in the interest of time, is I am going to move on to the next collaborative learning experience. So feel free to continue adding your thoughts to that first one, but we'll go ahead and get this second one started. So this is a small group, an example of small group collaboration that is still within the that still works within a broader classroom, right? So the idea with this activity is we are going to do breakout rooms. So there are slides within this activity deck, which Sherry just shared in the chat. And the first slide has introduction. So challenge 1, share a classroom example of student collaboration. It might be one that you shared in the whole group demo activity. It might be a new example, or you might have a list of examples. Challenge 2 is to share a question or wondering that your group has. And then challenge 3 is to share tools. So this is some of the same information that we kind of were looking at with the whole group, but it's in a different format. So you're going to have an opportunity to either chat or discuss within smaller groups some of the answers to these challenges. So we did this as a whole group. Everybody was on their slides, their individual slides, but now we're going to do this as a small group activity. So this is meant to demonstrate how to facilitate student collaboration within small groups. So we have, it's 28 people, I think. And if you look at each slide, so there's a group name and group number. There's spots for you to answer each challenge. And then there's also spots for group roles. So a facilitator, a scribe, a presenter, and a timekeeper. We've also got these little visuals here, task 1, 2, and 3. So something that you can use to monitor your progress, maybe this is the timekeeper that can do this, is to click and drag these to the completion status bar to help you monitor your progress in completing these challenges or tasks. There's also a help button down here. So when your group needs help, you can use the fill color to change it to red. And I'll be monitoring this presentation to see which breakout rooms I need to go to assist. Are there any questions? And can anyone get on their microphone and explain what we're about to do in our breakout rooms? A repeat back, if you will.
I can. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you.
So we're going to go into breakout rooms and basically complete challenge 1, 2, and 3. And you'll use the boxes on the side to move the colored task cards into the completion status. If you need help, then you'll use the fill tool to change the color of your of that box on your slide.
Thank you. Sounds good. Okay, can we split into breakout rooms? Sherry, I'm hoping that you have the capability of doing that. Yes, okay.
Yes.
Good. We'll spend about 10 minutes doing this, I think. So we'll have some time to wrap up and reflect. Thank you for asking. Oh, you asked in the chat. Yes, we'll do 10 minutes. We'll come back at the 55. I guess that's 9 minutes now. I talked too long.
All right, so they are open. I'm going to make sure folks are in the rooms. If I see some folks where maybe they're the only person in the room, I'm just going to move them to a room with more people.
I think because I'm not a host, I can't like jump in and out of rooms, but I don't see anyone that needs help yet. So that's good.
Okay.
I just made you a co-host,
Thank you.
and I'm gonna pause recording.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. I was reviewing the slide deck. I didn't see any calls for help, so hopefully you all had some engaging discussion, sharing some of your collaborative learning experiences and ideas and questions. Is there any group that wants to share what they discussed? And I can share on the screen as well. Or you can share, you can either get on the microphone and share, or if you want to share in the chat, you're welcome to do that as well.
I was group 1, but we had some technical problems. So my partner fell out of Zoom. So we didn't get to this part. Sorry.
Yes, and I think this is a true testament to working well with group members. I actually am the person who told Kathleen to click that button, which made her fall out of Zoom, and our wonderful group members did not bust that out. So that's just wonderful with collaboration there.
We have to be flexible when it comes to technology.
Yes, we
Yes.
do.
And plan for it to take more time than you expect.
Oh,
Everything
yeah.
takes more time than we expect with
Yes.
collaboration.
Yes.
So maybe another group, let's see.
Group 4. I think we're group 4. And the reason I really wanted to speak up was because we talked about something that I could use tomorrow, which was embedding literacy skills. So even though I'm doing science, the person who is the partner in the group, and I don't recall her name, but she gave out some really great techniques for including for any subject literacy skills. And the example she gave was a Freyer model, which and I thought that was really excellent, because sometimes you have some collaborative skills which should be used in all subject content and for universal design. And I think the literacy concepts are really important. And so that's what I wanted to, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yeah, we were group 6, not group 4. Sorry, I think I said it wrong. Pretty sure we group 6.
Yeah, because I was in group 3, but ours was filled in, so we filled in group 4.
I don't know, because now that I'm looking at it, it's typed in group 4, but on your screen it's not. I don't know.
It might be because whenever I entered presentation mode, if you enter presenter mode and then things are changed after you are in presenter mode, it doesn't always update.
That is it, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, like she was saying, Freyer models are a great way to collaborate. There's 4 different modes. So they define the word for themselves. They use it in a sentence. They draw it and they give examples of how that word or different instances in which that word is used. And you can use it at the beginning of a unit or whenever you're reading a story, and it works for any content level.
That's great. I am glad that you found something that you can use right away. And I see in the chat some also some appreciation for the templates. Yes, feel free to use either the whole group template or this breakout group template to use with your teachers or with your students. Sherry just linked to the deck, which I'm assuming is the link to the main deck, which has links to each of these activities. And so you can, I think most of them have a blank one, or you can just make a copy and kind of revert back to that clean slate to then share as a template with your students. I see that we're out of time, so I will move on to encourage you all to fill out this survey, to log your attendance for today, and to provide any feedback that you have on today's session. If you did, Sherry also posted that in the chat. Thank you, Sherry. And if requested, you will receive a certificate of completion via email. This is a list of our upcoming workshops. So some of the questions and concerns you had with collaborative learning experiences, some of those are answered or explored in some of our upcoming workshops. All workshops, the details are at the link on this slide deck and also in the chat, because Sherry is wonderful. So thank you everyone for engaging in this session. We had people engaging on video, on mic, in chat, within our different collaborative learning experiences. So hopefully you gain some strategies and tips and tools for implementing collaborative learning experiences in your classroom. And have a great rest of your day.